Hi, I'm Scott. Basically, I'm here to talk to you today about why infosecurity is a board level responsibility. So basically, quickly, who am I? I'm Logical Steps CISO. I love technology. Also an MBA graduate and qualified CISSP. Most of my time spent consulting, doing enterprise security architecture. I'm also an MSc student part-time at Royal Holloway doing information security. So, yeah, I'm moving on. So today, basically, I want to talk to you all about why InfoSec is a governance issue. It's not just an IT function. Basically, who your target audience is, IT's role, what the problem is, how you actually sell the problem to the board, compliance and the board's responsibilities, and to conclude basically with why it comes down to board's responsibility. So, basically setting the scene. The boards and the senior management comprise of an awful lot of non-technical people. You've got financial directors, sales and marketing, HR. None of them generally have a strong background in technology. So, with a few exceptions of technology companies. So basically over the past 2 decades, technology has become more and more key to doing business. In the 21st century, you can't do business without technology. And so that's why the confidentiality, the integrity and the availability of that information is critical. But information technology and information security require investment in both money, time and resources. So, for the good of the organisation, you basically have to try and convince uninterested senior management, uninterested directors to commit resources and funding so that they can apply them to your security projects. Briefly, understanding how we do it. There's needs and there's wants. Now originally there was someone called Maslow who came up with his hierarchy of needs on here, and that was further built upon by someone called Hertzberg, who went on to his hygiene factors. Essentially our needs are our basic requirements, our food, our water, our shelter. Our wants on the other hand are what we really want, our high-end cars, our big houses, etc. So there's a nice simple acronym that was produced for sales and marketing people called ADA, and that is attention. You need to capture your audience's attention, first of all. You need to get them interested. Once you've got their attention, build their interest up, and then develop desire for your product. So, once you've got that, then action begins. You can sell that product to the board. Now a quick example. A few years back, I was working somewhere, we only had PIX firewalls in place, and I had to convince them why we needed to set up a DMZ and we replace where the servers currently were. I also had to convince them why, when they'd only ever used PIX there, we needed to choose a firewall from a different vendor to put on the perimeter. So I ran through essentially that same process I've just gone through there, and eventually convinced the senior management and got the funding and the resources necessary in order to implement firewalls from separate vendors at the perimeter. So basically, further moving on, we've got to ensure that when you present to your senior management, to your board, that what you're presenting to them is what I would call board talk rather than tech talk. They don't want to hear lots and lots of 3-letter acronyms. They don't want to know about SQL injection attacks, cross-site scripting. They don't want to know about whether you should be using cipher blockchaining or cipher feedback mode on your ciphers and your encryption. What the board is generally concerned about is their sales, their income, their top line, their gross income. They want to know about the return on investment. They want to know the quality of the product or the service you're delivering. Now, what's very interesting though, they are concerned about risk, and that is a key area where you can sell infosecurity, dealing with it, mitigating it. They're also concerned about the cash flow, making sure there's enough money for all the projects that are running around, and they're interested in what their competitors are doing. Yeah. And the other thing that concerns the board is legal and regulatory compliance. Depending on which jurisdiction in the world you're working in, you need to ensure you comply with the local laws. So, the challenge. You want to basically be able to sell them the benefits, not just the features. So by that, the board don't want to know every different parameter of a particular firewall. They don't want to know about its throughput, etc., etc. What they want to know is what it gives them, how it helps them do their job, how it helps the company to make money, what the bottom line is. So people buy the benefits, not the features. And there's 3 little words we can use to sell that. And those 3 little words are, which means that. So a quick example, I'll put up here. Imagine a secure 3000 IPS that you're trying to sell them. This updates its signatures every 30 minutes. And which means that the company will have rapid protection from zero-day attacks. So, the how. It's basic human nature. People are drawn to people similar to themselves. It's just one of those unwritten rules. Now, the senior management are not necessarily going to need to know about the extent of your technical knowledge. It can even be off-putting to them. So, you need to come across, to a certain extent, as one of them when you're pitching to them. So, make sure you're using open questions to them. Don't just look for something that's going to give you a yes or no answer. Better, ask them something that's going to give them an idea, or give you an idea, of their objectives, their advantages, what their wants are, their attitudes and needs, and how that can be integrated overall. So, and don't oversell your risk. Really, you'll get away with it once and get investment, but if it doesn't pay off and it's cost them a lot of money, they're not going to take you seriously again. Keep it real. And when you pitch something to them, listen to them, ask them questions, watch their responses, watch their body language. That's kind of critical. And questions coming back from them, they're good. Look for the questions. That means they're actually paying attention to what you're trying to sell them. So, looking back over what they're interested in, regulatory compliance. This is really key, because you pick anywhere within IT or InfoSec where you've got a compliance requirement. So, a good example is the UK Data Protection Act. You need to see what's required. You need to have a look at what the company is currently doing. Do a quick gap analysis there. Once you understand that, and you understand the cost that's going to involve to meet that gap analysis, then you can take your proposal to the board. This is very critical, because serious breaches of the DPA can result in companies being fined for large sums of money, up to about £500,000, I think now. So, unless the organisation is going to take a top-down approach to basically pushing through the objectives, the changes, then it's leaving itself open to lots and lots of serious threats. It is part of the board's governance. So, why is it a board level responsibility? The boards decide what are the key information assets within its organisation. They decide how much you need to protect those. And they also control the funds and the investment in projects. So they have to be the ones that prioritise various initiatives. Also, the board's going to be responsible for pushing out cultural change within your organisation. And if anything goes really wrong, the board are going to be held accountable, and in some cases they have to step down if it's a serious InfoSec breach. So, looking quickly at the regulation again, whichever jurisdiction you're operating in as an organisation, there's various compliance requirements. So they might be ISO 27001, they might be the Data Protection Act. In UK government systems it might be HMG's IAS1. In Ministry of Defence you've got your GSP 440s, things like that. Over in the States you've got, for medical, you've got HIPAA compliance, etc. So basically the risks are there. You need to comply with them. As I mentioned before on the DPA, fines are up to 500,000 pounds for serious breaches. So the board has to be proactive, mandating any information security changes that go through. So, to conclude, if no one else wanted the information asset, it wouldn't really be an asset. You need to ensure that confidentiality is maintained. You need to ensure the integrity of the information is there, and you need to ensure that it's available only to the people who need to access it. It is a governance responsibility of the board. It does require a top-down approach to implement, and you need to really sell it to them in order to get it achieved. So, any questions?
Right. Yeah. You say that the board care most about revenue and profits. So how do you tie deeply technical projects such as a new IDS system or new firewalls into something that they care about? How do you tie those two together?
You need to sell to them basically what the benefits of that will be. What will it do to the company if you implement it? You know of its features. You know that essentially it might be able to detect signatures in real time, and it might block those, drop those particular packets. But they're not going to buy that. They're not going to understand what you're talking about there. Basically, you have to say to them, if we set these up at our perimeter, if we can stop attacks before they enter our network, how much benefit will that give us? How much will that prevent a drop of productivity across our staff? That's the sort of angle you need to be looking at to try and sell that to them. Okay. Anyone else? Yeah.
How would you get the board to go beyond, well, to avoid having the board go down that really bad route of only spending just enough to tick the boxes for compliance, even though it's not that good?
Sometimes it's worth setting up a demo, if you can do, if you've got the time, the cost, the availability of that. That's one way of approaching it. Or look at other case studies where only ticking off the PCI DSS list meant that they were still breached, and there was lots of reputational damage. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Just how do you explain the risk when nothing bad has happened? I often get that. What happened to us?
Okay. You can once again take an example and say, and I'll rephrase it slightly. I've seen that before in certain manufacturing industry. They were producing bolts that were for an upstream supply contract. Now they said, no one's going to care about our systems. All we do is produce bolts for manufacturing here. What they didn't realise was those components were being sold on to a military contractor for their aircraft manufacture. Because their security was lapsed, people were in there, they knew the specs of those bolts, suddenly they knew the tolerance of those, and from that they could infer the tolerance and the requirements of the aircraft. And that was quite a serious security breach when you look at it that way. So you need to look for examples and sell them examples, sell them the features and sell them the benefits. Okay. Anyone else?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.